If you were writing a paper and you quoted from a source, you would write an in-text citation. Well, in a speech, you give an oral citation. This is the way that you cite your sources while saying your speech. In this video, we are going to look at, well, what is an oral citation? Why do you need oral citations? When do you say the oral citation? And how to compose one. So the first thing is knowing that an oral citation is purely just a verbal reference to your sources. It's a way to credit others' information. Think about all the research that you've gathered. It's been informing how you've thought about your speech. It's been informing how you create your main points. Now it's time not only to think about how they inform your speech, but to let your audience know how these sources have formulated your speech. The reason that you say oral citations, number one, is to be academically honest. Your audience won't know what is your information and what information comes from your sources. Their natural tendency will be to think, wow, that student's so smart. They came up with all those things on their own. But when you credit the sources, you're showing academic honesty. You're saying that this is not my information, I've got it from somebody else. And because of that, it enhances your credibility. Nothing says, hey, I can trust the speaker, than when the speaker lets the audience know they have gotten the information from elsewhere. So when do you say your oral citation? For this speech, you have 3 main points. So you will have 1 oral citation per main point. You may cite more than just 1 for 1 main point, but I recommend that you keep it to about 2 if you're going to go over 1 per main point. The reason I say that is because you don't want to overload your audience with source after source after source. So think of a citation as that oral footnote that's helping your audience relate to your topic even at a deeper level. Too many oral footnotes can get overwhelming. Be sure that you cite the source of your material prior to quoting the material. Make sure that you cite your source when you're talking about it and don't just say, oh yeah, that information comes from this place, or my source for that was ... Remember, whatever you say, your audience will think those are your words. That's your information. Those are your ideas. So, when you quote beforehand, you're letting the audience prepare mentally for the fact that this comes from elsewhere. So, let's think about how to compose an oral citation. It's really going to depend on the source type, whether it's a book, a CD, DVD, movie, interview, newspaper, personal experience, website, list goes on and on. But you're really going to try to reference, well, who's the author or the interviewee, dates, titles, what helps your audience quickly understand where they could find that same source. So here's an example. The source type is a book. The author's last name is Charlo, and Charlo wrote a book called Ethical Codes of Practice. So if I were giving an oral citation based on this information, I could say, in Charlot's book entitled Ethical Codes of Practice, he asserts ... That lets you know this is from Charlo, this is a book, and this is the title Ethical Codes of Practice. I could say that in any order. I could say in the book Ethical Codes of Practice written by Charlo, and it would still be a good oral citation. Just make sure that the source material is stated prior to actually giving the quote. So here's a different example. Here's a book. The author's name is Honey. The title is The Tiger Mom. And the information that's quoted is children need structure but not rigidity. Pause this video and create your oral citation. So here's the oral citation that I created based on this source. In his book, The Tiger Mom, author Honey tells us that children need structure, but not rigidity. Again, you could have it rearranged in other ways. You could say in Honey's book, The Tiger Mom, the author tells us that children need structure, but not rigidity. Both are perfectly good ways to cite this source. Let's look at this one. This is a periodical, and it comes from the New York Times. The date is October 12, 2015. The information being quoted is that National Coming Out Day is celebrated each year on October 11th. Give this one a shot. So you see, I created this oral citation of the October 12, 2015 issue of the New York Times states, National Coming Out Day is celebrated each year on October 11th. So by saying issue, it lets your audience know that it was issued periodically. There's a strong connection between issue and maybe a newspaper or a journal or a magazine. So your audience will know that it's an issue. If you don't have the author's name, this is a really great example of using the date and the source type and the name of that source to create your oral citation. How about this one? This one is a website. The thing about website sources is that you never, ever, ever say www. Only cite the website URL. So the author is the organization National Autism Association, and their information is found on the site naa.org. The information they gave is there is no single cause for autism. Try this one. I created, according to the National Autism Association website, naa.org, there is no single cause for autism. Maybe you came up with something very similar. Or maybe you said, as shown on the website naa.org, the National Autism Association states there is no single cause for autism. So you can start to hear the fact that, hey, as long as I have the source material, I'm saying what that source type is, I'm saying where it's coming from, then I have a good oral citation. Here's an interview. The interviewee is Elise Edie. Credentials were Miss Arkansas 2011. Her information was, I am proud to represent Arkansas. Try this one. So I stated, in my interview with Elise Edie, Miss Arkansas 2011, she states, I am proud to represent Arkansas. Again, I'm giving my source type, which is an interview, letting you know my interviewee's name, Elise Edie, and her credentials. This is similar to the information that I would give in my APA citation, right? So again, I'm letting my audience know the basic gist, that the source type, the interviewee's name, and the credentials. Then there's personal experience. Personal experience is pretty easy to cite. Again, you need to think about, well, what are my credentials? In this case, I've decided to put the credentials of teacher. And the information is active learning helps students retain information. How do you think I would cite this one? So, just like personal experience is probably the easiest thing to cite in APA style, the oral citation for personal experience is pretty easy as well. In my personal experience as a teacher, I've learned that active learning helps students retain information. As long as you say, in my personal experience as, and fill in your credentials, whatever you say after that is a good oral citation. But what if you have a DVD, or a CD, or some movie? Well, here's a DVD source type. The producer is Appleseed Productions. The title of that film is Get the Facts and Get Them Organized. The information was pretty long, but even without the information here, you can still get a gist of what I'm looking for. So as shown on the DVD, Get the Facts and Get Them Organized, which was produced by Appleseed Productions, ... And then I would say the information I gathered, or a quote. Again, I could rearrange this. I could say in the Appleseed Productions DVD, Get the Facts and Get Them Organized, I learned ... What about a pamphlet? The author is McCracken's, and the title is Successful Strategies for Adolescents and Young Adults with Cystic Fibrosis. The information gathered was that this pamphlet discusses the symptoms of the genetic disease. Try to cite this pamphlet. So this oral citation is actually from a past student, and she stated, in McCracken's pamphlet, Successful Strategies for Adults and Young Adults with Cystic Fibrosis, it discusses the symptoms of the genetic disease. Again, you have your source type present, you have your author, and you have your title of the pamphlet. Again, thinking about what does my audience need to quickly understand that this is not my information, but information that I gathered from elsewhere. If you can successfully do your oral citations, you have nothing to worry about. You will be academically honest, and you will enhance your credibility.